Hello, my name is Frances Fox. I am trained in all the psychic skills and I am aligned with my mission. I was set up for my mission before I incarnated. That shouldn't be news to you that we have multiple serial lives. Um, and I chose interesting situations, difficult situations, astonishing situations in order to be able to collect a series of skills and then hone to the highest level, and then to be in certain places uh, that would be that would position me for delivering the gifts that I bring. I'm not the only one who does this. You do this too. If you look at what's really been difficult in your life, you're going to realize later on that that sets you up for something that you learned and that you want to share to other people so that they don't get so beaten up by the process of life on planet Earth. I'm I just did a beauty treatment this afternoon, which is the reason for the title of this podcast, which is also a chat on YouTube. And I was chatting with the person that was doing the treatment, and I asked about her child. And she said to me that, yes, they had gone to her home country to take care of the health issue the child had. So I said, okay, what finally happened? It turned out that her child is 3 years old and he has three cavities, which is a lot for a 3 year old. So I told her that she hadn't completed her process in terms of causal, but she proceeded to tell me that the taking care of the three cavities in her child in her country, and the main reason they went to take care of it in her country had to do with cost, was $400. And I went, wow, that's great. And she said, yeah, but you don't understand. It was going to cost me between $30,000 and $40,000, the same treatment in the United States. And I went, wait a second, wait a second. Let's say she was exaggerating. Let's say it was only 20, except this is a story that repeats. In this country, because the child was small, they would have to put him into a hospital and they would have to sedate him. It would actually be like a surgery. So yeah, okay, so then those 20, 30, $40,000 is sounding kind of par for the course. A 3-year-old kid with three cavities. And she said that the dentist in this country, the United States, was taking care of three patients at a time when that dentist was taking care of her child. Whereas when she went to her country, the dentist, from the first visit to the last, the only person he was taking care of was her child. So she spent $400 to take care of something that in this country costs thousands. What's going on with that? Well, this is not new. Medicine throughout history has never, ever been a profitable business. There's that joke, and maybe it's not a joke, that in China years ago, if you didn't get better, you didn't pay your doctor. It was that simple. I don't know if that's true, but that kind of makes sense. And it matches what I tell people when they tell me, and I ask, how's your mother? She has cancer. Oh, okay. And what? Well, it's not a good prognosis. Okay, but the doctor is really wonderful. And well, okay, but what are they going to do? Well, there's not really much they can do. So she's now on two medications. I already know that story. And they go on and on about how they love the doctor. And I've said a lot of times, and I know I say things that people don't like. I'm too direct, I'm too honest, I say what I feel. I say, well, I'm glad about you liking the doctor, but how about maybe you should root around for a doctor that can give you a better diagnosis, a better analysis, and maybe without medication or chemo. It's actually going to destroy the quality of life of your person. No, no, no. He's really good. He's so nice. He was so patient with my mother. We have a problem in that we're not clear. We're not clear. And that has happened in politics. Trump says what he wants to say. He says stuff that every once in a while it's like, whoa. And he says it how he wants to say it. And then how many people have Trump derangement syndrome due to the fact that they simply don't like him. And if you press them, which I've done several times, when I have felt it was safe to do, they'll say, well, yeah, but you know what? I don't like the man. And I'll go, but you don't need to like him. You don't really need to like him. You just need to have certain things happen and be good. So we have, and it's an issue that is very familiar to me because I always say, I did not take any courses in diplomacy. I say, I'm like Trump. I didn't take any courses in diplomacy. And my children will tell you, and friends, don't ask Frances a question because she's going to answer it and you're not going to like it because I just deliver the raw information, which is what the person needs. So I think at some point we need to look into who sold us that bill of goods that you have to like people. I'm not talking heart chakra and I'm not talking sweet. I'm talking liking them, admiring. They're professional. I think we need to look at that. I'm not going to waste my time doing that today. But we need to look at that because there's been too many people for the last 3 decades. Oh, she's got a wonderful doctor, and I have a wonderful doctor. Okay. So what do you have? Oh, I have this. And they tell me the name of what they have. And I'll go, that is a name that is put on a bunch of symptoms which you have. But what do you have? No, I have this. That is a name for a collection of symptoms. What do you have? And they won't get out of that. This is what I have. Well, that name didn't really get you any closer. It got you closer to getting medicated, but it didn't get you any closer to do any kind of self-healing, auto-examination. It is known in Chinese medicine and in Ayurvedic medicine, I don't know in terms of shamanism, but it is known that most diseases have a root cause that's emotional and mental. And that's the basis for homeopathy. And I'm going to say the story again, and I'm sure a lot of you have heard it. I don't remember. Oh, I remember. I was looking for cystitis, which is considered to be like a urinary tract infection. And as I was looking it up in homeopathy, I noticed that the recommendations in terms of homeopathic remedies was the same remedies that were for sports injuries and for aching muscles and hurt muscles. Not just one, but 2 or 3 of the remedies. I went, that's weird. This is cystitis. That's a sports injury or a muscle, whatever. Why on earth would both things need the same remedies? And both of them were for when you injure muscles or you have a lot of tension, which the tension, of course, is in the muscles. High blood pressure is tension in the heart muscles and in the veins, the muscles around the veins and arteries, and then they clench up, and then your heart muscle has to pump harder to get the blood to flow. So I started, and I realized, so then the remedy for cystitis is to reduce muscle tension. And then it kind of makes sense. If you figure out when females do get cystitis, a lot of times. And so I started asking, the next couple of years when I would meet somebody who was a doctor, I would say, do you know that cystitis has to do with tension? And they would always do this. They'd step back and they would look at me and they would go, yeah. I said, well, then why do you recommend antibiotics? That's the problem with modern medicine. And homeopathy around, I don't know, maybe it was 20 years ago. Don't quote me on the time, but homeopathy was in this country. The big companies had they don't make a lot of money because a homeopathic remedy, which I've shown you before, and I don't think I'm going to be able to find quickly, is a little vial that costs like $11, and it can last you for several years because you're not supposed to use a lot of it. It's little sugar pills, and it has drops of essences of flowers, sometimes of crystals. There's some that have metal essences, but very minute. And so about 20 years ago, the US government decided to go after homeopathic remedies. And it was interesting to watch. It did not last very long because the companies, what they did was they simply folded up their tent and they left. Some of them went to Canada in terms of having a presence in this part of the world. Meanwhile, the number one remedy in the world for sports injuries is a homeopathic remedy. And I'm going to go ahead and write the name here because I think everybody should have it. It's called Traumeel. Try not to make any mistakes. Traumeel. So if you have a sports injury, that is what you want. It comes in injections. You don't do that? Not a problem. In Latin American countries, a lot of people know how to give injections because it's a very effective way of getting homeopathy and vitamins. But no, you can't do that. You can poison yourself with what your doctor gives you, but you can't inject yourself. So it's if you fall down, Traumeel at home. I have fallen down in a particular house. Now I'm realizing it was 3 times in a particular house that I lived in. And it's not usual for me. And I hurt my knee. Of course, I was trying to do too much at the same time. I was trying to carry a cup of coffee and a book because I wanted to go outside and whatever and have my book and my coffee. And when I got up, I went, oh, this is not good. I have spinal cord damage. And thanks to not going back to the medical system, I am not in a wheelchair. I don't take medication. And I should be operational to the end of my life. There's things I should not do, and I don't. But anyway, so I fell. So when I fall, I'm like, okay, let's see where this goes. Because it's not that I have a bad back and a disc. I have spinal cord damage, a disc that went inside my spinal cord. Okay. So the first time it happened, I went, oh, God, I hope I did not hurt my back. And my knee was banged up. So I went ahead and I injected myself once an hour for 3 hours in a row, the Traumeel. By the end of 3 or 4 hours later, there was no evidence in aches and pains, in bruises, in anything that I had fallen. And I had fallen. I had fallen on my knee. And it happened a couple of other times. And I would do this. I would always go, oh my God, I hope I didn't hurt my back. And I would just go and get my Traumeel and it would be taken care of. It's very good for inflammation. So I'm not here to sell you homeopathy. I'm here to tell you that we have to honor what this country has done by electing Trump, who turned around and put JFK in charge of our health. JFK doesn't like additives to food. And this same person who was telling me about her child, she was recommending a podcast in which the podcaster was talking about Kellogg's cereals. What I said here several weeks ago, that the owners of Kellogg's were into mental health and that they had made up those cereals with a lot of sugar in order to relax the children. Now, I don't know where she got that piece of information. I never looked deeply into the Kellogg's history. I did know that they were into mental health. I think they had health hospitals, mental health hospitals. I don't want anybody that's dealing with mental health to be dealing with my food. I don't want actually anybody to be touching my food. So she was telling me this story, and I said, yeah, I talked about that several weeks ago. We are very lucky. Nope, that's not what I'm looking for this to show. Somebody wanted to know what the homeopathy was. So we are very lucky that Trump came in. We are very lucky that he put in JFK because JFK does not want additives in foods. JFK was the one who told us that none of those vaccines that we're getting ever had clinical trials. JFK is the one who allowed us to talk about the fact that pediatric offices apparently cannot exist unless they have the money from the vaccinations of the children, the babies. And somebody said, wow, that's why they fight so bad when a mother says, you know what, I prefer my child not have that. Because if a certain percentage of their office vaccinates, they have vaccinated kids, they not only earn 40 or $50, I believe that's a sum, don't quote me, for each vaccine. If they have like 70% of their office vaccinated, then it's like double. Don't quote me on any of those numbers because I'm not good at numbers. I'm Cuban, we exaggerate, but this is not an exaggeration issue. This is, I don't have those numbers here, but I wanted to give them to you. You can find that on X. We could never have talked about this before. I could never have talked about the dentist, the difference between a dentist in Latin America and a dentist here. I could never have talked about that until Trump got elected. What are we saying here? Every inch of us has been controlled. And our health is extremely important because our physical body is a vehicle that some of our consciousness is in. And when our consciousness is not happy, it'll make different parts of our body sick. So let me go ahead and talk about stem cells. Darn, I've already talked for 16 minutes. And then we're going to go ahead and do a mantra. First, I'm going to say that the good news is that yesterday I was so out of control and so whacked out by things that are happening. My handler, who would like to think he's my boyfriend, hello, is back. Why hasn't this man been picked up? Because this is a country that has been completely out of control. But so I was out of control yesterday during this chat, and then I decided to go ahead and make sure that I did a huge session of mantras because I was out of control emotionally, with rage, with fear. And so I went online and I told the mantristas, if you want to join me, all I'm going to do is nonstop mantra. And we did, and it was an hour and 25 minutes. And I settled down. I was able to think clearly. So during that session, somebody said, what are we doing about the World War? And I knew what he was talking about, the whole thing with the long-range missiles. Why do we have to deal with this stuff? That should be dealt with by the government, and we should be able to be at peace and go around and do our business. But the guy that we elected is not in yet. Same thing as in Venezuela. They elected somebody in August, and they have to wait until January to take over. And then meanwhile, the guy that they kicked off is still into January. So we have, apparently, from what the news is, an opportunity for a third world war, and Putin appears to be warning, hey, back off. So somebody said, why don't we work on that? Because, it looks like, and I went, you know what, let's work on that. And then I was thinking, okay, so how do we work on this? We do not interfere in politics. We do not interfere in people's choices. What we do is we balance the elements, which according to Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, shamanism, and probably all the other medicines except for modern, is health is a balance of the elements. So I was thinking about it, and I don't know why it took me so long, probably because I was so out of control emotionally. And I said, okay, well, the people that want to throw us into war have got to be very angry people. So why don't we go ahead? And so now at 8 o'clock, we're getting together and we're going to be working with the elements, the element of water, to put out the fire. And we will have the intention of putting out the fire that would be what is vitalizing the decisions that appear to be putting us on the brink of war. So we'll be doing that at 8 o'clock. And as soon as I get enough Anglos that kind of buy into this or want to help out, I'll be more than glad to do this session in English. It's not a problem. We could probably do them, and I could just put the mantras, because we don't talk while we're doing the mantras. We're just working. We're doing a visualization, putting ice on top of the country or on top of the people. We practically never identify the people. And we have the mantra music on, and the mantra with the intention. So we will be doing that now at 8. And sometimes, most of the time, interesting stuff comes up, and I tell people, share the images that you're getting, share the images, not visions, not like, oh, I have a vision. No, no. When you're doing the mantra and you're in that not meditative state, but you're in that state of mind with that intention, you can get information. And a lot of times it's very interesting. So I forgot what I was going to do next. Will somebody remind me? Because I went, the name of the medication, it's not a medication. It's on the screen and it's Traumeal homeopathy. Okay. And let me tell you one more thing, and I'm going to say this story again, and I've said it before. When years ago, I was in such incredible pain on my side, but it felt like it was skin. It didn't feel like the organ underneath. And so I called a friend of mine who's a doctor. And I remember Saturday night, I said, listen, I think I'm dying. He said, what are you feeling? And I told him, and he said, okay, I'll see you in the office tomorrow morning at 8. I said, but it's Sunday. He said, it doesn't matter. I'll see you in the office at 8. Throughout the years, he has called me several times when his family's been sick and he's not quite sure what's going on or he's insecure, and he'll have me check and I'll tell him. I do that with a lot of professionals. So I got there at 8 o'clock in the morning. He looked at me. Anything on the skin? No, but God, there's pain. And he went, okay, here, take this. And he handed me that little vial of homeopathy. And I went, wait a second. He said, go ahead, this will take care of it. And I said, no, 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 I'm not walking out of here like this. You don't understand. I am dying. And he said, no, you're not. You have shingles. Shingles? I have shingles? He said, yes, that's what you have. Take this. I said, but this is not possible. This was, well, maybe 10. No, actually, it's 20 years ago because it was the week my grandson was born. Ah, that explains it. Shingles is from stress. So if you're a mind control victim, anybody that you love is a problem because that's used against you. This is my first grandkid. Now I get it. So I went, he said, take it. Call me next week. So I went home and I went to the internet and I looked up shingles. Oh my God. This skin stuff, this rash, open wounds. I went, oh my God, but I don't have any of that. And I remember I had put flower essences on that area, which may have stopped me from having broken skin, but the pain didn't go away. So then I looked up I looked up homeopathy oh my God. And then I looked up homeopathy. I looked up shingles homeopathy. There was nothing like that. It just said, take this remedy. And I went, no, I want more information. There's no more information. You have shingles. Take this remedy. And I'm going to put the remedy here. Okay. And I looked at the little thing and it was what the doctor had recommended. And I went, okay. By the end of that day, by the time I went to sleep, I didn't have any pain. I took it for 2 or 3 days, whatever it was that he had told me to take it. No pain, no breakout in the skin. And actually, I've had shingles like 4 or 5 times, but my life has a level of stress that's really, really high. You know a lot of my history, so you can imagine why. And when it starts, I don't know that I have that. I'm just like achy and it hurts and then I go, oh, okay. And then I go and I get my Restox and it's taken care of. Look yourself for shingles and then look for homeopathy for shingles. We need to understand that simplicity, root cause, is very important, and medicine has really never been expensive on the planet other than now with modern medicine. That can't be. And I don't think it's going to be much longer. I would like to offer up to Kennedy and to Trump the fact that since history started on the planet, health has been associated with people that are very spiritual and priests, shamans, people that have contact with the spiritual part of life, which means the other dimensions. And we have got to remember that the first thing that Jesus did when somebody was ill and he was going to heal them was to cast out spirits. Now, this is totally ridiculous that this doesn't happen anymore. But when I first started to talk and I could see spirits and I would tell people, people said I was working with the devil. I didn't get a radio show many years ago, and the radio station really wanted to give me a radio show because people said, a couple of people, not everybody, that I was working with the devil. And it was not easy television because there was always somebody there who thought that working with spirits was working with the devil. Meanwhile, Jesus Christ, if you were sick, the first thing he did was cast out spirits. So now I remember what I was going to tell you about. So I have a friend of mine who's a medical doctor who does stem cells therapy. And I remember I love to watch with remote viewing what happens inside the body. So I said, can I please see a session, please? And he said, of course. I said, I'll document it and I'll give you what I see. And he said, sure, why not? It was fascinating. They take out like fat cells. And I think they took them out from this person's abdomen. And then they put it in a machine that rotates, moves, and it separates the fat from, I don't know what else. I don't know the technical terms, but it was interesting because, and I shouldn't be telling a story without remembering the details, but I don't. But bottom line is they did what they needed to do with whatever the fat that they took off of the patient that they were now going to inject, because this was a beauty treatment in the face. So I went, oh wow, now I'm going to be able to see what it does. They injected it in her face, and immediately where it was injected, there was a battle between light and dark. Wherever the doctor injected the stem cells, it was dark to start out with. And then when he injected the stem cells, there was light. But it wasn't that light took over the dark. They started a battle. I was like, oh my God. And then it would be color orange. It would get orange, which is creativity, creation. Not sure. I was shocked. And then he injected it in her chin. Now, let's remember that the chin in witches is really ugly and long. And proof that there's bad energy in the chin was that when he injected in her chin area, the battle was a royal battle between light and dark. Eventually, the stem cells won. It turns out that stem cells are God particles. Got it? Stem cells are God particles. Okay, what's God particle? God particles are a unit of the 4 elements of water, air, fire, and earth. And it's also called chi. It's a unit of intention. So when you're injecting stem cells, you're injecting intentionality into an area where the person's intentionality is not playing out. And as I said in another podcast, the dolphins told me that every place that you're sick, like if you have a tumor, whatever, where you're sick, basically you have a zombie issue. And I went, what do you mean a zombie issue? Said, yes, your consciousness left that area and spirits come in. Well, that's what a zombie is. When you leave your physical body, gone, and then an entire spirit body comes in and you're a zombie. But he says that's the same issue when you get sick, but a much smaller area. So that's stem cells. That's totally spiritual, totally with having to do with spirits and the battle between light and dark. Now, when I told the doctor what I found, they found it fascinating, but they couldn't put it out to the public. It was my discovery anyway. But, and I have a document on my website, but the spirits are really kind of aggressive. The document is always missing the graphics. And we keep putting them back on and they keep disappearing. The spirits don't want people to know how incredible stem cells are. You don't need to have the umbilical cord, apparently. And of course, you cannot, don't mess around with umbilical cords in this country because that's almost like you're messing around with cocaine. This is heavily regulated. What is that all about? Heavily regulated, an umbilical cord that when the baby's born, they throw it out in the trash. And now that somebody thinks that maybe it might be useful for something, all of a sudden it's worth more than cocaine and you can't touch it and you can't. It's, I'm going to repeat what I always say. Some of the stuff that we're expected to believe in this country, if you came home from school as a little kid and told your mother that story, she would say, "You need to go to your room because you're lying." No, but this is true. Come on, who's going to believe that story? And yet we're not only expected to believe it, we're expected to pay for it. So let's go ahead and why don't we work on reducing the fire for this war that might break out. And the mantra, let me put it up, and we can go ahead and use the music, which is the one with the glaciers and the waterfalls, etc. It's called Agni. Agni means fire in Hinduism. Okay, so give me a second and I'll try not to misspell anything. Okay, here it is. Please God help me with my intention to miraculously reduce the fire of war. What is the visualization? You're going to see, you can see the map of the United States and make it really small and put it underneath the cascading water. Or you can take the map of the United States or the country or the planet and you put it inside an igloo. You visualize the map very, very small, stick it in an igloo. I suggested, and we're going to do that at 8, that we go ahead and have the intention to ice down the people that want the war. Without having to identify any names, we don't look for names. I mean, every once in a while, somebody will make a comment about Trump or about Elon or somebody else who's real important. But generally, we don't do that because we're not working at that level. We're working at the level of the elements. So let's go ahead and do that. And let's do it for 10 minutes. And if you have any images that are interesting, please share them. And know that if in your house people are very frustrated or they're cranky and your mate comes home from work and they're cranky and the kids argue and the dog barks too much, which is too much fire, then just get that video, which is up, and I'll put the link on our YouTube channel page, and use it at home. And you can also very easily just imagine that child, that dog, that mate inside an igloo, or just stick them underneath the cascading water. Okay, so we're going to do this for 10 minutes. might want to particularly ice down Washington, D.C., or the areas where the people are that decided that long range missiles was a good idea. Okay. If there can be one takeaway from this Francis Fox News from Other Dimension podcast chat, it should be the fact that you can reduce fire just using your mind, and you don't even have to spend that much time on it. And it is immediately effective. You can immediately see the results in if your children are fighting within a minute, 2 minutes. Like a miracle, it's a miracle. Um, you can see the reduction in tension. And you should try it when you go out to dinner. If you see people that are kind of arguing, and or if you're out in the streets or in a party and people are angry, uh, put a block of ice on top of them, inside their throat, visualize them under cascading cold water, and then watch. And then trust yourself that what you are seeing is real. Don't go, oh, yeah, but yeah. What? You're addicted to authority? You need an authority to tell you? Come on. We've already seen what authorities have done to us. Trust yourself, trust what you're seeing, and then repeat it again. Because science, you can't just do stuff once, it has to be repeatable. Repeat it. You're at work and there's cranky people. Your boss walks in and he's cranky because he's in the middle of a divorce or whatever. Just visualize him under a cascade of water. You will be balancing the elements in the other dimensions for that person, and there will be an immediate result. We don't need to live the way we live, and we do not need to spend the kind of money that we're spending, and we don't need to have incredibly long meetings and big groups of people to deal with things. There is magic, and that's the reason why I was born into the situation I was born in. And that's the reason why I get so trashed. There's an entire community in South Florida related to the Cuban political mafia that have totally trashed me, completely trashed me with made up videos. Supposedly, they were going to create an accident, and that was when. Anyway, we don't need to get into it. We don't need to live the way we live. We can live different, we can live better, and we can live even better than when things were more simple, but we weren't quite so comfortable because we want to keep the comfort. I don't want to live in a cave or in a tent. I want my air conditioning and I want my internet. So we can have that, but we don't need to go through what we've been required to go through by people that have profited on things they weren't supposed to profit on. And the only way they could keep us paying them is by not allowing us to talk, to share, or to discover, uh, or changing information. So we're in a really good place, and that's the truth. To be able to speak freely about stuff that makes sense and having it be up to you whether you want to continue to listen. That should have been always that way. It's a gift today, and I do appreciate it. So anyway, I'm Francis Fox, and try this technique at home. And you know what? I did not give you the link, but I'm going to give you the link. So if you give me one more second, I will give you the link to that. I need to be more systematic about what it is that I do. And I'm giving you the 10-hour version that you can play all night. We have been told by hundreds of people that, let's see, where here, that when you play this at night or during the day, people sleep better. And if you play it in your work environment, people are more productive and they also feel better. So thank you for joining me. I'm Francis Fox with news from other dimensions.